My name's Mary, and I'm the Director of Youth Services at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. And I'm here today to start our new story. And this time we're going to read Welcome to the Bed and Biscuit. The book was written by Joan Carris and it's illustrated by Noah Z. Jones. This book was published by Candlewick Press in 2006. Chapter 1. Welcome. Welcome to the Bed and Biscuit. The large multicolored bird sat on the desk, holding the radio receiver up to her orange beak with one claw. "Hand it here, Gabby," said Grandpa Bender, seated at the desk. He wore a slender red gold cap curled around his neck like a scarf. "Right now," Grandpa pried the receiver out of Gabby's claw. "Mornin'," he said into the phone. "Dr. Adam Bender here. Sorry for the delay. How may I help you?" He listened a bit, then said, "Yes, ma'am. Minor birds are amazing. Gabby sounds just like me, or anything else she wants to copy. Now, about your dog, Frou-Frou. I have space to board her. You say she's a Pekingese?" On the floor by his feet, the mini pig, Ernest, listened briefly, then closed his eyes. Silly things, Pekingese dogs. Ernest had no time for them. Grandpa hung up the phone, but it rang again right away. Gabby grabbed it as before and again had to give it up. Grandpa listened, then said, "You mean today? 5 goats?" Ernest perked up. More boarders were coming, and that meant a busy day. As Grandpa's main helper, he would be needed, which always made him feel good. In Ernest's opinion, everyone should have a pet pig. Grandpa hung up the phone. "Next time, I get to answer first," he told Gabby. "Now, why don't you count the pencils?" The cat stretched out her neck and yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth. She blinked sleepily, resettled herself around Grandpa's neck, and began licking his ear. Lick, lick, lick. Grandpa petted her. "Millie, it's clean now, okay?" Millie went right on licking. He put down his pen and unwrapped the cat from his neck. "I sure hope you have kittens when you grow up. Then you'll have somebody else to clean." He rubbed noses with his cat. "You keep Ernest company," he said, setting her on the floor beside the pig. "I need to, well, phooey, there goes the phone again. Didn't know I was so popular. Bed and Biscuit, Dr. Bender." He was quiet briefly, then laughed out loud. "No problem. You can bring Sherlock anytime. He's one of our favorites. See you later." Ernest agreed with Grandpa. Sherlock was an interesting old blue tick hound. He told fine stories. As Grandpa finished working, Gabby stuck the lost pencils in the mug and began singing. "Happy birthday, dear Ernest. Happy birthday to you." Ruffling her deep purple and green feathers, she leaned over the desk to look down at the pig. Ernest gazed up at her. "You remembered," he said. "I'm 3 years old today, a fair age for a pig. Grandpa grinned at his noisy pets. I give up, he said. Nobody wants to be inside, so let's get out of here. Again, wearing Millie like a scarf, he left the office. Gabby rode on Ernest's head, her favorite seat on the pig, and they went toward the dog kennels. At the kennel doorway, Millie jumped lightly to the ground. Dogs were often scary and much too loud. She streaked off toward the pastures. Grandpa got busy measuring out feed for the dogs. Ernest carried pails of water in his strong jaws. Grandpa cleaned cages and whistled. Keeps my mind off the manure, he had told Ernest when Ernest was just a piglet. Gabby whistled with him. Today they were doing "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog" in memory of Elvis Presley. Ernest dragged each boarder's bedding outside, shook it vigorously, then replaced it. The dogs barked and yipped until Grandpa brushed each one. It took a couple of hours, as 5 of the 8 dog stalls had boarders. When the goats arrived, Grandpa and Ernest herded them into the closest pasture. Next, Mrs. Farringforth brought Frou-Frou, the Pekingese, to board for 2 weeks, and immediately after came Sherlock, the blue tick hound. Sherlock ambled out into the grassy run attached to his indoor kennel. Glad to have you back, Ernest told the hound. I'll stop by later, but we're busy right now. Next to Sherlock, Frou-Frou was hurling herself at the wire fencing around her run. Yip, 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 yip. Sherlock eyed her mournfully before turning to Ernest. Yuppie little dust mop, and right next door, just my luck. As soon as the boarder goes, Ernest said as he was leaving, I'll move Frou-Frou's bedding over to that cage. In the lodge, far pastures, Ernest helped Grandpa to feed and water the big animals. His horse, Beauty, the 4 cows, Romeo, the donkey, and a small herd of llamas. That done, they stopped in the small pasture next to the house so that Grandpa could check the health of the 5 new goats. At last, Grandpa and Ernest went to the house for lunch. On the porch, in the center of the mat, where no one could miss it, lay a dead mouse. Millie rested smugly on the porch swing. Good kitty, Grandpa picked up the mouse. Haven't had a mousie in the house since I got you. Before going in, Ernest rinsed off in his own personal pig shower. Grandpa had built it for him beside the porch. One pull on the chain and water cascaded all over Ernest. Today he treated himself to an extra long birthday shower. Grandpa stuck his head out the door. That'll do, Ernest. Ernest tugged on the chain reluctantly. He liked to stand on his sparkly white stones under the lovely water for a long, long time. A huge crow landed beside him with a rude caw, a second crow, and a third. The first crow snatched one of the shiniest stones from Ernest's shower and flew off with it in his beak. Another stabbed his black beak right between Ernest's front hoofs. Ernest squealed in fury as the crow trio winged away toward the woods behind the house and barn. His loud oinking carried across the grounds of the Bed and Biscuit. Every animal heard Ernest yelling at the thieving crows. So did Grandpa. Ernest, he called out the door. "Time to come in." After lunch, Grandpa set a golden cake in front of Ernest. "It's cornbread just for you, because you have been my best buddy for 3 years. I don't know what I did without you, Ernest. Happy birthday." Ernest had been all upset about the crows. Now he remembered why he was the luckiest pig in the world. Looking up at Grandpa, Ernest thought, "I wish he understood animal talk. I need to say thank you." "Would I like it?" Millie asked, hovering over the cornbread cake. "No," said Ernest, taking a big mouthful. His pleasure in the cake was interrupted by a fire engine siren, followed by the ringing phone. Snout in the air, Ernest detected a faint smell of smoke. Grandpa lifted the phone receiver and listened. "Be right there," was all he said. He lifted Gabby off the back of a chair and put her on Ernest's blanket pile, next to Millie. "Listen up, troops," he said, patting Ernest's head. "You 3 stay here. There's a fire over at McBroom's farm, and we can't let it spread to the woods between us. I'll be back after we put the fire out. You just stay right here." He grabbed a faded red cap, yanked open the door, and was gone. "Be very careful," Ernest longed to say, in a way Grandpa would understand. "We're your family, and we worry. I can take care of everything here." "I'm scared," Millie murmured, gluing herself to Ernest's left haunch. "Don't be such a baby," snapped Gabby. She turned to Ernest. "Why can't that man just stay home? Why does he always have to go help people?" "Because that's who he is," Ernest replied. Millie pawed the blankets and kneaded Ernest a while before settling against him. "Thank you for sharing your bed," she said. "You're welcome." Sort of, he thought. Not only had his birthday party been cut short, but now he had both the cat and the bird in bed with him. A nap with Molly now and then was okay, but he preferred sleeping alone. Ernest stretched out his snout, pointed at the door. Smoke and fire were bad. They always meant trouble. The Mystery Box, Chapter 2. Hours went by as the animals slept, and night came. "You're snoring, snoring," Gabby poked Ernest with her beak. "Sorry," Ernest said, half asleep. She went back to sleep, but he was now wide awake, worrying. "Ernest, you're squishing me," Millie cried. How could such a small cat take over the whole bed? Ernest apologized again, and the night wore on. Above the old black stove, the clock ticked away. Grandpa's rooster, Rory, the loudest rooster in the county, began crowing as dawn approached. Ernest clung to the hope that someday Rory would be made into chicken soup. He had chased Ernest repeatedly when he was a piglet, new to the Bed Biscuit. Now Ernest stuck his head under a blanket and lay still. Finally, Grandpa's white pickup truck roared by the kitchen window. Ernest, Millie, and Gabby lined up at the low window to watch. Grandpa hurried into the barn and came out with a dark wooden box. about the size of a bread box. He entered the kitchen with a tired, "Morning, troops," and went on by, heading for the stairs to his bedroom. They listened as he slowly mounted the steps. "Well, wouldn't that frost your beak?" Gabby said from her perch on the back of a chair. "Oh, hush," Ernest said. Gabby stuck her beak in the air. "Ah, Lord, Ernest Piglet is at it again." She turned her back and talked to the wall. "I'll never know why Grandpa had to add a bossy pig to this family." "You won't figure it out either, bird brain." Gabby whirled around. "Blabby little fat belly. Sorry excuse for a parrot. Porky smart mouth." Ernest was running out of insults. What was Grandpa doing anyway? "Loud mouth, lard bucket." Millie gave a pitiful mew. Eager to change the subject, Ernest said, "You win. So what do we think Grandpa got out of the barn? I never saw that box before." "He had something in his arms, too, when he got out of the truck," Millie said. "It's a bundle. I saw it." "Really?" said Ernest. "Did he have it when he came through here?" Millie's ears flattened, and she shook out her fur. "I don't know, but I'm going up there to see for myself. It's my bedroom, too." "Well, wouldn't that frost your beak?" Gabby said. Time passed. Ernest fidgeted. Gabby flew from the rocking chair to the end of the kitchen counter and began to clean her shimmering purple-green tail feathers. "Do you think the bundle came from McBroom's farm?" Ernest asked her. "Who knows? Grandpa's gone all night. He could have been all over the county." "Well, how about that box? Do you know what it's for?" "Honestly, can't you see I'm busy?" "But this is important." Gabby stopped preening. "How do you know?" "I just do." At that point, Millie marched into the kitchen. She sat on Ernest's bed, where the white tip of her striped tail tapped up and down. Tap, tap, tap. Ernest said, "Well, what is Grandpa doing? Tell us about the box." "It's hot," she said. "I felt it with my whiskers when I tried to look inside." "Is it a toaster?" Ernest asked. "Is Grandpa cooking in his room?" "No, but it plugs into the wall like a toaster." Suddenly, Gabby cried, "The bundle! Tell us about the bundle!" Millie's green eyes narrowed. "The bundle is in the box. I tried to get a look at it, and Grandpa pushed me away." Her tail tapped faster. "You poor thing," Gabby said with unusual sympathy. "Now, Millie, Grandpa's just tired," said Ernest. "He thinks you're the best cat in the world." Millie drooped. "Right now, all he cares about is what's in that box." Ernest went on. "Maybe whatever's in the box could hurt you, Millie." "Right. Most likely a pit bull," Gabby said. Unamused, Ernest and Millie stared at her. "Just trying to lighten things up," Gabby said, waggling her beak. "Seriously," Millie went on, "how could it hurt me? It's tiny." "You sure the bundle is inside the box?" And it isn't food? I'm sure. He's talking to it. Millie glared at Gabby and Ernest. Have you ever seen Grandpa talk to his lunch? No. But he talks to the newspaper and the TV, and of course he always talks to us. Ernest stopped short. There, said Millie. Ernest bent down and nuzzled her satiny head. You think what's in the box is alive, don't you? Yes, and it stinks. Stinks? Ernest and Gabby said together. Like the barbecue grill outside where we have picnics. Ernest was thoughtful. So it smells like smoke. Yes, Millie said. It smells burned, too. But Grandpa must think it's wonderful. He hardly even noticed I was in the room, so I left. Ernest saw how upset she was. She had slept with Grandpa ever since he had found her, hiding, tiny and terrified, in his barn. She was so sickly that he had fed her with an eyedropper and carried her around in his jacket pocket. He called her his Millie baby, and from the beginning, his bed had been her bed. I'm not going back up there, Millie announced. I'll just sleep with you, Ernest, like I did last night, if that's all right. Oh, fine, sure, Ernest lied gallantly. I'm on the curtain rod, Millie, in case you need me, said Gabby. But who or what was upstairs with Grandpa? Ernest wondered. Chapter 3, Smaller Than a Bread Box. Only a couple of hours later, a sleepy-eyed Grandpa left for morning milking. Now that it was 8 o'clock, the cows were bawling constantly. Millie sat up on Ernest's bed. He left me behind. Me too, Ernest replied. He's tired, that's all. I'm going to the barn to help. Those milk pails are heavy. You coming? Absolutely not, Millie said. No pouting, Gabby said from under the kitchen table where she was hunting for crumbs. Only babies pout. But I am a baby, Millie said. Ernest bumped the old door to make it open. He decided not to remind Millie that she was nearly a year old, almost full grown. Out on the porch, Ernest cast a professional eye over the property. Ahead of him stretched the large grassy square between their house and the red brick office. On the left side of the square was the low white building of dog kennels, with a matching building for cats on the right. Once Ernest had spied an escaped cat boarder there, crouching on the lower limb of a maple tree. His warning oinks had alerted Grandpa, who came and retrieved the cat. Ever since, Ernest had scouted the property several times a day. Inspection over, Ernest trotted off to his right, down the dirt lane to the barn, some distance behind their house. As usual, he helped Grandpa carry heavy things like pails of milk and water, and he listened when Grandpa talked to him. Grandpa needed listeners because Grandma Bender had died just before Ernest came, and Grandpa was still lonely. With the cows milked and the chickens fed, Ernest and Grandpa went back to the house. Grandpa talked some more while he made breakfast. Cows have no flexibility, he told his family. They think the world is ending if there aren't milk before 7 in the morning and by 6 in the evening. Ernest munched hungrily on his stew of potatoes, egg, bread, and fresh milk. He needed to keep up his strength. With several new boarders and the problem in the bread box upstairs, it could be a difficult day. Swallowing the last tasty crust of bread, Ernest moseyed over to his bed where he could think. What was small enough to fit in a bread box? Across the room, Grandpa enjoyed a second mug of coffee. By the time he set his dishes in the sink, he was whistling. I'm off to the kennels, Grandpa said. He stroked Millie's sleek back, but she did not turn around to lick his hand this time. She didn't roll over to have her belly rubbed either. Ernest stood at the window and watched Grandpa walk away. He left us behind again, Ernest said. Tail feathers, cried Gabby. The man's not himself. He gave me 2 pears for breakfast. Nothing. Well, I ate nothing, and he didn't even notice, said Millie. He's thinking only of that thing in the box. You mean the baby? Gabby said. Baby? Who said it was a baby? Squalled Millie. No one. But it probably is, Ernest explained. That box might be like the heated chick brooder in the barn for those fooled chicken babies. Of course, agreed Gabby. It could be any kind of a baby at all, a mouse, a wild bird. Yeah, you know, Grandpa. Millie's eyes glittered. We don't need another baby in the family. Baby in the family, Gabby repeated. Ernest shot Gabby a warning look. He was in no mood for her minor bird repeats. Not in our family, he told Millie. Grandpa's a vet, remember? We take care of animals here all the time. Not in our bedroom. True, said Ernest, but we think this one was in the fire. Maybe it's in pain, and that's why he pushed you away. Millie's tail had become a quivering bottle brush. But it's our bedroom. Looks like family to me. Well, I'm going out there to help Grandpa, just like always. Millie hunkered down stubbornly on the bed of blankets, but Gabby hopped onto Ernest's head. Take me to the office, she ordered. I have work to do. What do you mean? Are you answering the phone again? When Grandpa's away, I run the office, Gabby said. Stunned, Ernest repeated. You run the office? Why not? I can sound just like Grandpa, and that ringing phone is hard on my nerves. Ernest knew she could make any sound she wanted. Her imitation of a garbage truck backing up was his favorite. But now he said, Gabby, you know you shouldn't be answering that phone. Gabby flapped one wing, dismissing the advice. Is it fun to talk on the phone? Millie asked. Oh, yes. I say, welcome to the Bed Biscuit. And people say, how's life treating you, Dr. Bender? What do you say then? Asked Ernest, alarmed. Oh, it varies, she replied. Sometimes I say, life is treating me like a bowl of fruit. How creative, said Millie. Gabby nodded happily. Other times I say, life is treating me like a dead pigeon. It all depends on my mood. Oh, dear, dear Ernest Ernest mumbled. Gabby, he went on, do you take calls from people who want to board their pets? Of course, she said, ruffling her feathers importantly. Millie quivered with awe. This is so impressive, Gabby. Ernest kept on. Do you take reservations for boarding? Why should I tell you? Because this is Grandpa's business, not some game with the phone. Ooh, squawked Gabby. Mr. Self-Important Pig again, picking on a poor senior citizen bird. Ernest waited. He said nothing. Oh, all right, Gabby admitted. Usually I say we're full. Call back tomorrow, I tell them. Ernest said, well then, that's fine. Sometimes I say, toodaloo to you, at the end. Of course, Grandpa would never say that. Anything else? Ernest asked. Gabby broke into a noisy cackle. Yesterday, I did make a joke, but only on one call. Go on, Ernest said, steeling himself. I think it's very original, she began. I said, hello, Comfort Inn, but we're all out of comfort. She cackled proudly. Millie gave a small, sad mew. You reminded me, she said, all out of comfort. That's just how I feel. Ernest fumed with anger. It's a wonder we get any business at all. If Gabby talks like that on the phone, he thought. Gabby, he said firmly, let the answering machine in the office take those phone calls. That's its job. You mean I'm being replaced by a machine? Being replaced, echoed Millie with another mournful mew. So, we'll stop our reading right there for today. But come back tomorrow as we'll be reading Welcome to the Bed and Biscuit by Joan Carris, illustrated by Noah Z. Jones. This book was published by Candlewick Press and published in 2006. So please come back tomorrow and we will be continuing to hear about Ernest and Millie and Gabby. And maybe we'll find out what Grandpa has in that box. So until tomorrow, bye-bye.